Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Darker Than Blue here in Washington, D.C. on WPFW 89.3 FM in the Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia area. I am your host, Jackie Lukeman, and today is Friday, October 18th. It is finally fall. It finally feels like fall. That's a nice change. But then, every other day, the weather is a little bit warmer, a little chilly, a little warmer. So climate change is modulating itself to confuse us more. I know people have been enjoying the lovely warmer temperatures, but for those of us who pay attention to the climate, for those of us who are gardeners, for those of us who understand that this unseasonably warm weather is unseasonably warm and it's not normal. These warmer temperatures in these days deep into October are very concerning for us. But, I'm not going to hold it against folks who want to go out and enjoy, the errant warm October day. Just keep in mind that unseasonably warm that has a meaning that is not good or enjoyable. But hey, we'll take what we can get while we can get it, because certainly everything going on in the world causes us at this moment to just have to take a breath and enjoy whatever we can, because the next moments are certainly not promised. As you heard in the news segment right before this show aired, yes, the state of Israel, the illegitimate state of Israel, has assassinated Yahya Sinwar, the previous leader of Hamas. There will be another leader of Hamas, I'm pretty sure, within a few hours. A few things I want to say about this development. The US and Israel are making it seem as though the assassination of Yahya Sinwar was the goal of this entire disgusting, horrific, genocidal round of violence against Palestinians, very much like the many previous massacres against the Palestinians. But they're making it seem like, okay, now we've assassinated Yahya Sinwar and now we can negotiate. What they're not telling you is that Yahya Sinwar offered to negotiate with Israel several times, and offered to exchange the Palestinian prisoners, over 5,000 of them. Some estimates are 7,000. Other estimates are 10,000. There are reports that there were 9 to 10,000 Palestinian prisoners who were rounded up during the first months of this genocide that Israel carried out against Gaza. So after that first release of some Palestinian prisoners, what Israel did was to go into the bombed out areas and snatch up more Palestinians to put back in prison. So Yahya Sinwar and Hamas and the other groups that are a part of the Palestinian Resistance Front, Palestinian Liberation and Resistance Front, have offered to negotiate with Israel several times and exchange the IOF hostages, because can we please stop calling the people who were captured by Hamas on October 7th, quote unquote, civilians? If you live in a society in which military service is required of every citizen, with the exception of Orthodox Jews, but even now that has changed, and Orthodox Jews in Israel are bitterly protesting the change in that policy of conscription that had excluded Orthodox Jews before this iteration of the genocide, But now the Israeli government has said that no, Orthodox Jews are now required to join the military like everybody else is. So if you live in a society where military service is required, how are you a civilian? If when you turn 18, you are automatically going to be enlisted in the military and you are going to serve your term in the military, because if you don't, then you go to prison in Israel. This is true. So the people who and by the way, the people in the kibbutzes, the people in the settlements, number one, those settlements are illegal. Number two, the people in the kibbutzes are armed by the Israeli military to be the first line of defense against the Palestinian civilian population. So it is the people in the kibbutzes who are deputized by the Israeli occupation force to shoot first for them, to go after the Palestinians who are protecting what's left of their land, their farms, their olive groves from the settlers. And the settlers are deputized to go in and terrorize those people. Very often, settlers shoot at Palestinians on their own land. Very often, settlers will establish a settlement on Palestinian land in between the olive groves or the farmland and where the Palestinians live, so that the settlers can keep the Palestinians from their olive groves and their farms. And then the settlers go in and destroy the trees, burn them down, uproot them, destroy the crops, and assault Palestinians who run to try and save their. All of this has been going on for since before 1948. How about it was the plan since 1899, right? That the ethnic cleansing and the genocide of the Palestinians was the plan of the Zionists since the first Zionist Congress in 1899. They were, or maybe that was the second Zionist Congress, after they said, yeah, no, we're not going to settle in Uganda. Nope, we're taking Palestine. And they made a whole announcement about it too. So we need to be clear and honest about the nature of this. Is not a conflict. This is not, it's not even a war, because you've got the US arming Israel and Palestinians have whatever they can get. They don't have an army, so to speak, like Israel does, and they're certainly not being armed with top of the line, the biggest, most powerful, most expensive military equipment, weaponry. No, that is the United States giving that material to Israel, and Palestinians are defending their lives and their land against, but mostly their lives, against an illegally occupying force that is being armed and supported by the United States government. And the Palestinians are defending themselves with whatever they can get. They have a right to defend themselves. I know nobody else will say it, but Palestinians, Palestine, Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, Jordan, they have a right to defend themselves against the illegal occupying force of Israel and against the illegitimate apartheid state of Israel. But media in this country will not admit, nor will any politicians, that Yahya Sinwar and Hamas offered to exchange prisoners, to exchange people that they had captured several times. And repeatedly, Netanyahu, Smotrich, and Ben Gvir, the top officials in Israel, with the approval of the United States government, refused to negotiate with Sinwar and Hamas up to this point. So the idea that all of a sudden now that Israel has assassinated the person who has been trying to negotiate with them and they have just refused to, now that Israel has assassinated this man, now they're going to make it seem like, okay, well, we've accomplished our mission and now we can negotiate. Now we have hopes for negotiating with Hamas. But Hamas had repeatedly tried to negotiate with Israel. So what the Israeli government is saying about now we have hope of negotiate, it's a lie. It's an absolute lie. If people are believing that now Israel will stop bombing Palestine and Lebanon, please disabuse yourself of that. The goal was not to take out Hamas or anybody in Hamas or the top leader in Hamas. We know how this goes. The Israel takes out a leader, somebody else takes that leader's place. That's the way revolutionary leadership goes when you are in the middle of a fight for your people's lives against an illegal occupying force. We have learned many lessons from the decades of liberation struggle, of revolutionary liberation struggles. So, of course, we're listening to and we're watching corporate media tell you not even half the story about this. They are trying to make you believe that this is what Israel was trying to do to take out the top leadership in Hamas. And this is why they did all of these things. And now there's going to be hope for a ceasefire. Well, I don't believe that's true because there's other information coming out of this current administration that finally reveals the truth about what's been going on in this administration in regard to Israel. And we're definitely going to talk about it in a minute, but I just want to point out a couple of things about this assassination of Yahya Sinwar. Um, he was the leader of Hamas, but Hamas is not the only organization in the Palestinian resistance. Every Palestinian civil society revolutionary people's organization is a part of this resistance. So it is not just Hamas. Hamas and the members of the Palestinian Resistance Liberation Front are not terrorists. October 7th was not a terrorist attack on Israel. October 7th was the response of oppressed people rising up against their illegal occupiers and fighting for the lives, the freedom, the liberation, and the self-determination of occupied, oppressed, and constantly ethnically cleansed people in Palestine. That's what the Palestinian Resistance Liberation Front is. That's what Hamas is. They are people's liberation organizations. That is what they are. They are not terrorists. And just because the US government calls someone a terrorist, it doesn't mean that they are. What that means is the United States government wants to delegitimize what these organizations and the people they are defending. That's what the US government designating organizations and people terrorists. That's what that means. That's why they do it. They do it to delegitimize these people and their cause in the face of the American public. Because they don't want you, dear listeners, having any sympathy or understanding or compassion for the people who are being genocided right now, for the people who have been ethnically cleansed since before 1948, with the British beginning those first massacres of Palestinian villages, almost quite literally showing the new Israeli army that was a militia that was armed by illegal arms trafficking from the US and Britain to establish the Israeli army. But it was the British that began the massacres of Palestinian villages, showing the new Israeli army how to do it. And so the Israeli army picked up from the British. British wiped their hands of the situation they helped to create. And the Israeli came in with US money and British money and arms and continued since 1947 or so. So Hamas, the entire collective Palestinian resistance liberation front, not terrorists. They are freedom fighters for Palestinian people. This despite what US media continues to say about what happened on October 7th. And it's wild to me that elected officials or well, no, yeah, she is an elected official, but she's running for a higher office, that these current elected officials or officials who are seeking higher office continue to repeat these lies about sexual violence committed by Hamas on October 7th. Absolutely debunked. Even the New York Times had to admit that the person they allowed to write that article that started these lies about mass rapes and Hamas throwing babies into ovens, even the New York Times that ran that story, the first publication to run that lie, even they had to admit that the person who wrote the article did not have any substantiation for anything she wrote. And that story, those lies have been completely debunked. So why do US politicians continue to repeat lies about sexual atrocities committed by Hamas? It is because they want to continue to demonize the Palestinian people. And honestly, at this point, US politicians of both political parties want to demonize all Arabs. Because if you can't see, dear listeners, that this is an expression of Islamophobia in this country, the outright demonization of people who are fighting for their lives against an illegal occupation and a genocide, this government is designating these people as terrorists, continuing to lie about people trying to liberate themselves from apartheid and ethnic cleansing, land theft, forced starvation. These people are called terrorists by this government that has supported and backed how many coups, that propped up a whole neo-Nazi government in Ukraine to fight against Russia, to destroy Russia. This government legitimized Nazis in Ukraine. So now the U.S. government and Israeli officials want you to believe that now that Yahya Sinwar is dead, that okay, now we're going to stop all this. No, they're not. They're not going to stop that. Have they stopped bombing? The assassination happened what, 2-3 days ago? What is Israel doing right now? What are they doing in Lebanon right now? Yeah. So and at the same time, US officials are claiming, oh, well, maybe now there's hope for a ceasefire. Maybe now there's hope for more negotiations. Well, if the US government believes that, this assassination creates room and space for negotiations, why did the US government and the Canadian government just designate Samidoun, the organization that advocates for Palestinian political prisoners? Why did the US and Canadian governments just designate Samidoun a terrorist organization? And the Canadian government, I believe, sanctioned the two people who were the founders of Samidoun. The people, the individuals who started an organization to advocate for Palestinian political prisoners, which is every Palestinian that is arrested by the illegal occupying force in Israel. So you mean to tell me the same government in this country that is like, oh, now that the head of Hamas is dead, now we can really work with Israel to carry out a ceasefire. But this is the same government that just designated Samidoun and the two people who started Samidoun terrorists. Samidoun, the organization that advocates for Palestinian political prisoners. This is not because Samidoun or the people who founded Samidoun and run Samidoun are terrorists or are associated with terrorists at all. Again, it is the demonization of the Palestinian and Arab people. That is the reason this is being done. And it's the demonization that they want to present to you, the American people. They want you to see Palestinians and Arabs writ large as terrorists. That's why the US government and its allies in Canada are ganging up together to now delegitimize and shut down, really, get rid of organizations that are engaged in any kind of solidarity with Palestinians. What why would this government do that if they are really working tirelessly toward a ceasefire, as so many people have said in the past few months, when we have raised the issue that it is this administration that is the facilitator of this genocide. And the alternate possible administration from the other political party has also said that they will continue to support Israel and give them whatever they need to continue to carry out this genocide. Where is the tirelessly working toward a ceasefire when the same government is tirelessly working to designate Palestinian advocacy and support organizations as terrorists? Come now, people. So that's what we were kind of met with when we were getting the show together today, and it's very hard to stay on track as so much stuff happens as each day goes by, and so much stuff, the weight of the stuff that is happening is getting so great that the fissures within the administration are starting to be exposed. And we're getting a glimpse into the contradictions, the conflicts, the disagreements within the administration about what has been going on. So man, it's been hard to hold on to this for a couple of days. But I've had to, and it's been hard to kind of hold on to this and not just bleh, just all of it just go in from minute one about this, because we're beginning our pledge drive here at WPFW, and it is so incredibly important that we are doing this pledge drive at this moment, not just for WPFW, but we are living in a moment now where the US government is ramping up repression against dissent, all dissent, not just support for Palestine. That is being used as the basis for the escalation of a militarized repression in this country. But it's not going to be the only target. Do you understand? No, the repression that they are preparing for, it is going to be all encompassing. We have already seen, like I said, Samidoun being considered a terrorist organization. We have already seen Sputnik Radio taken off the air because of US sanctions against the network that they were finally able to get them taken off the air. The US government has been trying for years to kick a Sputnik Radio off the air in this country, right after they were able to close RT down. Right, we are seeing networks, entire media networks being taken off of social media platforms like African Stream. And not because they did anything wrong, not because they associated with anyone, because the Secretary of State for the United States government, Anthony Blinken, in a press conference, said without any basis in fact, with no evidence, with no nothing, just said that African Stream is secretly actually run by the Russians, No evidence to prove that, nothing to back that up. But as soon as he said it, what happened? YouTube, Twitter, I believe X still has African Stream up, but yeah, Instagram, all of African Stream's accounts, Google platform, their Google suite, completely shut down based on a lie from the US government. Those are the times we're living in right now. There is not a better time for this pledge drive because WPFW is a community run, publicly funded radio station through which you can hear information that you are having less and less outlets to turn to get this information from. For a lot of you, WPFW could be the last bastion, the last outlet where you will hear revolutionary, radical, anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, anti-imperialist war, pro-peace voices like myself, Pan-African voices like myself, and like the folks on Africa Now, like the folks on News Views with Garland Nixon right after this show, like the folks on Voices with Vision, like the folks on Covert Action, you know, like Anthony Rogers Wright's show, Full Spectrum, like Resistance Radio. You're not going to be able to hear the kind of revolutionary, radical, anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist, anti-settler colonial, anti-Zionist, pro-people, pro-planet, pro-peace news and perspectives and facts that you hear on WPFW. So yes, this show has a $500 goal for this day. Every show on the network, as I'm sure you've heard, has a goal for their show in order to reach this $300 fall goal that we have for this station to prepare us for a physical move that we have to make. But the larger goal of this fund drive is to keep these voices bringing you this truth on a public airwave. The need for these outlets that Pacifica and WPFW and WBAI provide for you is priceless. You're not going to hear the whole story on CNN, on MSNBC. You're not going to hear it on Fox News. You're not going to hear the whole story from the people on some so-called independent outlets either, because some of them have been co-opted by the state, not WPFW. WPFW, yes, presents a myriad of perspectives. Not everybody on WPFW is a revolutionary Pan-African radical like myself. But where else are you going to hear, especially in the Washington, D.C. area, y'all, where else are you going to hear someone like me, you know, just a chick from Southeast D.C. who loves our people and loves freedom and needs for us all to be free and is not afraid to tell the truth about the fact that it is this government and capitalism that is the problem of oppressed people around the world. And we talk about that every week on this show, and all of the other shows I talked about, they talk about that every week on their shows. We are here not getting paid for this work because for us, this is not work. For us, what we do on these shows, this is our responsibility as revolutionaries. This is our job. This is our calling. This is our contribution to the struggle for liberation of our people. And we need you to help us stay on the air. So my goal for this show is $500. Anything you can contribute to help Darker Than Blue stay on the air and to help WPFW continue to broadcast Darker Than Blue, I really need your help tonight to do that. So please call tonight. with whatever you can give, $5, $10, $2, $3, $10 a month. You can break a sustainer pledge down over several months, have it automatically taken out of your from your credit card account, from your bank account, $5 a month for 12 months, and it's done. Anything you can provide, anything you can do to support, I would deeply appreciate it. 202-588-9739 or 1-800-222-9739. You can hit us up on Cash App, $WPFWFM, and you can pledge on the web, WPFWFM.org// pledge. So sorry about that. I'm looking at 3 or 4 different screens. Okay, so let's get back. And I'm looking at the pledge board, by the way. So I'm monitoring you all's project progress. So I need you to call in. I need you to call in so I can announce your pledges, because I love doing that. It excites me a lot. I love it. It makes my show when I can shout out our supporters on our show. So please, you all call in and support Darker Than Blue and WPFW. So let me talk about what I mean when I'm talking about the heightening and deepening militarized repression that we are about to see. Did you know that the Department of Defense has revised a policy that they have had in place for a long time, but they have revised it and updated it in a very interesting way. And it's very hard for me to explain it. So I'm going to read from this analysis that I found about this revision of this policy from someone named Ronald W. Chapman. And who is Ronald Chapman? Ronald Chapman II is an attorney. He's a JD and an LLM. And he says, according to his Twitter page, he is the president of an organization called safehg.com. He says he is for peace amidst unprecedented government scrutiny. He's the author of Unraveling Federal Investigations, and he's a national news legal analyst, all that kind of stuff. So he knows a lot about it. He's a former Marine. So I guess if anybody knows about Department of Defense directives, he would know. So he says about the revision of DoD Directive 5240.01. All right, let me read that again. Department of Defense Directive 5240.01. And he says this is the expanding reach of military power on U.S. soil. Chapman calls the revisions that he points out, he describes them like this. Now, he says this one section authorizes military action when lives are in danger, provided it's authorized by an quote unquote official. And the provision in this directive says, excuse me, when lives are in danger, rendering any other lawful assistance to law enforcement agencies. They're talking about the police, the local police, the state police, campus police, school police, all the law enforcement agencies or other civil authorities. What's that? What are other civil authorities? Okay, provided such assistance is consistent with and has been approved by an official. What official? Who? Official of what? They don't say. Pursuant to Section 2 of this issuance, such official will ensure that the legal office of the providing DoD component concurs in such assistance. Now, this expert on this kind of thing says that this provision authorizes military action when lives are in danger, provided that military action is authorized by this nebulous official. Okay. He says of another revision that the section says that lethal assistance is permissible. Lethal assistance. The military is allowed to kill U.S. citizens on U.S. soil, he says it is permissible provided it's within the Department of Defense Directive 5210.56, which is the Department of Defense's use of force policy. And this provision says assistance in responding with assets. I love how they use these benign terms to describe the military and its weaponry. Assets with potential for lethality, killing people, or any situation in which it is reasonably foreseeable that providing the requested assistance may involve the use of force that is likely to result in lethal force, including death or serious bodily injury. It also includes all support to civilian law enforcement officials in situations where a confrontation between civilian law enforcement and civilian individuals or groups is reasonably anticipated. Such use of force must be in compliance with Department of Defense Directive 5210.56, potentially as further restricted based on the specifics of the requested support. What he is saying is that all of that word salad basically means the Department of Defense can justify their use of lethal force against U.S. citizens on U.S. soil if certain officials within law enforcement agencies say that they fear for their lives, basically, that they believe a confrontation with civilian individuals or groups is anticipated. Now, this says that all that has to happen for the military to provide lethal assistance to law enforcement is for law enforcement officials to reasonably anticipate that they are going to have a confrontation with civilian individuals or groups. What does that mean? What does confrontation mean? Whatever law enforcement says it means. That's what that means. Just like whatever I fear for my life means to law enforcement at any time. All right? That's not all. That is not all. The last thing he says about the revision that they made to this policy, and he calls this a bonus. He says the NSA and other intelligence organizations may share collection on U.S. citizens provided they determine a violation of law. And I think he left out a word, intelligence collection is what he says, because the provision says that dissemination of intelligence information where such information may be relevant to a violation of any federal or state law within the recipient's jurisdiction, that's the law enforcement agency's jurisdiction, in accordance with Section 271 of Title 10 of the United States Code. Now, I would encourage you to look up all of these other things, the Department of Defense Directive 5210.56, Section 271 of Title 10 of the United States Code, and certainly DOD Directive 5240.01. You have to look these up yourself because we don't have time in this show to go over what they all mean, what they all say. But let me tell you what this actually means in the grand scheme of things for you and me. So Chapman says in his essay, because he wrote a whole blog post about this DOD directive, the revision, and what it means. He says the DOD's recent directive 5240.01 feels like quite the step in the opposite direction of, just the military bringing order in during a natural disaster. And he's like, no, this is something completely different. It essentially broadens the military's authority to aid law enforcement during civil disturbances. The quotes, I'm using air quotes, but those quotes are in his essay. I am not applying the air quotes. He applied the quotes. And he says, now let's unpack what that means and why it matters. The directive authorizes support in, quotes again, exigent circumstances like natural disasters or large scale violence. But civil disturbance, he says, that's a term with a lot of room for interpretation. Take, for example, the events of January 6th, a day that will likely live in our memories and the history books for a long time. It's not hard to imagine how a future administration might use this directive to call in the troops if something like that were to happen again. Under the current directive, we're looking at a situation where if civil disorder escalates, the Secretary of Defense could approve the use of military assets in the streets. And if the situation calls for it, there's even potential for deadly force. But here's the thing, right? As much as I'm sure people are hearing this and are very concerned about this, and you guys must be, because hey, look, we do have some announcements to make, and thank you all so much. See, this is why I do what I do, because I know you all hear the things that I talk about, and your responses as you're cooking dinner, as you're walking your dog, as you're playing your kids, as you're playing with your kids, as you're driving home from work is, oh my God. Oh my God, is our government doing that? Yes, honey, our government is doing this and more. But I want to thank Beatrice from Reston, Virginia, Martin from all the way in Los Angeles, California. Thank you so much. Cordelia from Washington, D.C. Jamal, thank you so much from Arlington, Virginia. Guess what, y'all? Y'all have knocked down our show's goal from 500 to less than half of that. $209 to go, ladies and gentlemen. We can do it. 202-588-9739 or 1-800-222-9739. Hit us up on Cash App, $WPFW FM, or pledge on the web, WPFWFM.org/pledge. All right, so the thing about this DoD directive 5240.01 is that it's actually not new. The US military being deployed onto American streets and being used against American citizens, not new at all. And Chapman does point this out. He recognizes this. And as I was reading this essay, this blog post, before to get ready for the show, I was saying to myself as I was reading it, if he doesn't talk about the fact that this has already been done, then I'm not going to read this, but he did. So that's good. So he says, consider Kent State University in 1970. It was a time of heavy anti-war protests across the country, with young people taken to the streets to challenge U.S. involvement in Vietnam. On May 4th, Ohio National Guard troops were called in to quell a protest. There was no real plan, just a directive to maintain order. But somewhere in that chaotic mix of protesters, tear gas, and confusion, guardsmen fired on the unarmed students. 4 young Americans were killed, 9 others wounded, in a tragic escalation of force. This wasn't an attack on the enemy. It was an attack on American citizens exercising their rights. And then he mentions the 1967 Detroit riots, which was a part of the long, hot summer of Africans, working class and poor, particularly people in this country, rising up against racist police brutality, oppression, and murder that was never accounted for, and general everyday white supremacist oppression that we lived under in the United States. When federal troops were deployed to Detroit in 1967, buildings had been burned, tanks rolled down the streets, and there were 43 deaths, many of them civilians caught in the crossfire. These were citizens who were reacting to systemic inequalities. Chapman says that, not me, who found themselves under military control in their own neighborhoods. This has already happened, y'all. Even more recently, the Los Angeles riots in 1992, following the acquittal of officers in the Rodney King beating, showed how quickly a situation could escalate. The National Guard was called in, followed by the Army and Marine Corps, and Los Angeles erupted in flames. I'm glad that he presented it in the correct order, because that is what happened. Yes, the people were angry had a right to be angry that the cops who beat Rodney King on camera were acquitted. And yes, people were rightfully angry, rose up. The military was brought in, and then that's when everything, so the military, the presence of the military made it worse. The images of armed soldiers and military vehicles on city streets highlighted how civilian protests can feel like enemy territory when the military steps in. Because what's the military's job? To fight enemy combatants. So when you deploy the military onto the streets in civilian neighborhoods, they only know how to look at other people who are on the other side of their guns as enemy combatants. So, excuse me. So when we look at even more recently, an example more recent than 1992 in LA, how about Ferguson, Missouri? The 2020 uprising against racist police terrorism, and every uprising against racist police terrorism, extrajudicial murder of police, everything. How many times have we seen the National Guard, or now they haven't needed to call the military out because police departments in this country get surplus military equipment through the 1033 program. So deploying militarized police is very much like deploying the military. Anytime the police have tanks with sniper turrets that are used in warfare, do you understand, that come from the Department of Defense? So we already have military equipment on our police, on our streets, because of the militarization of the police through the 1033 program. But now the Department of Defense felt like they needed to revise their use of force policies in the event that some random nebulous local law enforcement official or civilian agency official wants to deploy the military. To why would they do that? Are you asking yourselves why would they do that right now? You should be, because it is not just that they are preparing for a potential uprising or something crazy to happen on election day, which is what people are saying they're doing this to prepare for. I don't think that's true. I don't think they're preparing for something to happen on election day. No, I think they're preparing to use the military against us, against folks who are already protesting cop cities, right? Because, I mean, have the Stop Cop City protests ended? No. Now the Stop Cop City issue has been, rightfully so, connected to the anti-genocide issue that the pro-Palestinian protests are focusing on. But so has the invasion of Haiti. That's a part of those people's demands too. And there's also the issue in the Congo that the Israeli occupation force is also implicated in. And you've, of course, like I said at the beginning, got folks who are realizing, oh, these militarized police bases, which are what these cop cities are. They are bases for the militarized police forces now. So people are recognizing that cop cities are like occupation outposts of the military in our communities. Cop cities are not going to be in the wealthy neighborhoods in this country. Look at where the cop city in Atlanta is being proposed. In the mostly Black neighborhood, mostly working class and poor Black neighborhood. That's where cop cities are going to be. So we understand that all of these struggles are connected. The issue of Palestine is not an isolated issue. It is connected to the oppression of children in the Congo, forced to work in those mines with members of the Israeli occupation force standing over them with US provided guns, right? And we understand that those children in Congo forced to mine so that they don't starve, because they are starving because of the oppression that's already going on there. That's connected to the US and Canada and the core group in Haiti paying Kenyan police forces to invade Haiti, to keep those people oppressed and poor and broken and starving. And then we understand that all of the money that is sent to Israel and sent to Kenya and sent to all of these other terrible despotic leaders that the US has propped up in these countries to oppress the people, all of that money going to Ukraine, that's our healthcare money. That's our housing money. That's our student loan forgiveness money. Do you understand? That's our living wage money. The government and the military and law enforcement agencies understand that we have made all of these connections, and they are preparing to do everything they can to shut us up so they can get on with exploiting people for profit, killing people for profit. Do you know that the defense contractors are making record profits right now in the midst of a genocide? But they're not only making profit in the midst of a genocide, they're making profit because of the genocide. How obscene is this? So this government understands that we have realized that it's not true that this administration has been working tirelessly to reach a ceasefire. How can that be true if you are going to give the people who are committing the genocide 30 days to improve humanitarian aid for the people that they are actively genociding? I so so you would tell the murderer to the look, you've got 30 days to feed the person that you're murdering, or else we're going to stop giving you the weapons that you need to keep murdering. That makes no sense. But this is what the US government is saying. That this is what this administration has told Israel. You have 30 days to increase humanitarian aid, to feed the people you are genociding. Because if you don't, then in 30 days, we're going to stop giving you weapons. That's what the US administration has told Israel. Well, what they didn't tell them was to stop bombing people. What the government, US government told, they didn't tell them to stop bombing people. The assumption was made that if they allow humanitarian aid in, they would have to pause their attacks. So that language is in the little letter that the US government sent, but ceasefire is not in the letter. Pause the attack. So the US government is literally telling Israel, let the people that you are genociding eat. And you have 30 days to let them eat. And you can pause to let them eat. You can pause bombing them so they can eat. And then after they finish eating, you can keep on going bombing them, but you have to let them, you have to give them a few hours to eat. And if you do not fix this in 30 days, we're going to stop sending you weapons. Well, don't believe that either, folks, because Politico has reported that a top US official working on the humanitarian situation in Gaza told aid groups back in August that the US would not consider withholding weapons from Israel because they were blocking food and medicine from entering Gaza. That information wasn't supposed to get out. But this person within the administration said at this meeting on August 29 here in Washington, the person's name, Lisa Grande, told the leaders of more than a dozen aid organizations that the US could potentially consider other tactics to convince Israel to allow life-saving aid into Gaza, such as applying pressure through the United Nations, but stressed that the administration would continue to support Israel and would not delay or stop weapons shipments. She was saying, another humanitarian official said, that Israel is one in a tight circle of very few allies that the U.S. will not oppose, nor will it hold anything back that they want. She was sort of saying with certain allies, we can't play bad cop, the official said. 202-588-9739, 1-800-222-9739, $sign WPFWFM for Cash App or WPFWFM.org/pledge, $159 to go. You all, thank you so much. I have some more announcements to make if I can scroll down. Thank you so much, Jamal from Arlington, Virginia. I got that. Thank you so much, Jerome from Capitol Heights. Appreciate you very much. So, yes, ladies and gentlemen, the past few days, really terrible things have happened. Of course, we've seen the horrific video of the bombing of the hospital camp in Lebanon and the burning of patients alive in their hospital beds while they're connected to IVs. Everything the corporate media in this country is telling you about what this administration is doing to stop this genocide, everything they're telling you is a lie. This government does not ever intend to not give weapons to Israel. Both representatives from both political parties have told you as much in the past few months during this presidential campaign. They have told you that they will continue to give Israel the support it needs to defend itself. My question is simply this: does anybody that Israel attacks have the right to defend themselves, especially when Israel's presence in the area isn't even legal? So, I am out of time for Darker Than Blue, you all. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for everyone who contributed. Just because Darker Than Blue is over, it does not mean that you have to stop calling in and contributing and supporting us here at WPFW, because Garland Nixon with News Views is coming up right after this show with some really great news analysis. But hey, if you love music and all kinds of music, I hope you listen to WPFW for the rest of Friday, because after Garland Nixon, there's Robin's Place. Amazing, amazing curator of women's music, women's talent, women's perspectives. Then after that, there's Meeting in the Ladies' Room with DJ Abby, DJ Rita Burns, and DJ Housecat. I do love that show so much. Back to Paradise after that at midnight. And I'm sorry, if you're still up partying at 2 a.m., why are you not partying to Black Notes and brother Amunda? Why? If you're up that early and partying, you could party with WPFW. So you have all of that time and all of those opportunities to continue to support WPFW and all of the amazing programming on this network. Thank you so much for joining. Catch you next Friday. Y'all be good to each other, be good to yourselves, and stay sane. Until then, peace. All right, folks. Oh, hey, y'all. Yes, you get a quick little part 2 for tonight. Appreciate you very much. Thank you so much for joining. Yeah, I wanted to talk about so much different stuff tonight. I wanted to start the Powell memo, but then Yahya Sinwar was assassinated, and there was no way I couldn't talk about that. You're absolutely right. It's time to cuss. I can cuss now. Woo, because this stuff be pissing me off, man. This government, these people, these liberals be pissing me off. But you know, I wanted to start the Powell memo, and I did. I started reading and I started taking notes with the Powell memo. And it's wild to read it again in this. It's like, ooh, this is ooh. But then Yahya Sinwar was martyred, so I had to talk about that. The attacks against Samidun happened. Had to talk about that, and of course, I had to talk about the bullshit that was coming out about the Biden administration. You know, this lady in the Biden administration telling all of the representatives of the humanitarian organizations that are trying to get aid into Gaza, and the Biden administration knows damn well that those fucking settlers are over there blocking the trucks, and Israel is not knows damn well. And they were just like, well, they ain't gonna do shit. that was that was basically what they said. They had a meeting back in August where all of the humanitarian aid heads were told by the Biden administration they're not going to stop Israel from doing anything. So sorry. that was And then I didn't even get to this story. Oh, where did it go? Shoot. There was a story where what was it? I can't remember how many lawyers it is. Oh, wait a minute. There is a letter that I think is about to be released. I don't know if it has been released yet. By a bunch of attorneys who here it is. Oh no, wait, this is from April. So yeah, so apparently earlier this year, at least 90 lawyers signed on to a letter saying that Israel's conduct in Gaza obviously violates US and international law. And I don't know what happened to that letter, but the US government has not cared. Um, I don't know, man. I'm just like, how are we looking at this? And not seeing that this government is just a whole damn lie. Just I don't understand liberals who keep repeating the bullshit that comes from this government. I do not. I get that people and here's the thing. How petty am I willing to be right now? I don't have my drink. I'm sorry. I don't have my drink. So I'm just gonna be real petty. I don't give a fuck who you vote for. I don't care because at this point, who you vote for doesn't matter. At this point in the empire, voting what's it gonna do? I mean, this whole thing about lesser evilism. Do people forget what evil is? Do people not know what the definition of evil means? Is evil like is there a new definition of evil where evil means something better than what evil has always meant in the history of fucking evil existing? Like I don't understand how people have come to craft this lesser evil narrative. And I understand that narrative is a result of the indoctrination of this duopoly, right? It is the way the system itself. It is the way the two major political parties have convinced you that lesser evilism is a thing, that it exists. And I'm sorry, evil is evil. Like, are we having an argument about who was more evil, Hitler or Goering? God, I mean, what, really? But people absolutely believe that lesser evil is a thing. And I think up until this point in the history of electoral politics in this country, there might have been, I won't say a justification because there's no justification for justifying any evil at all. There really is not, ever, at all. But I guess before there was genocide, there might have been half an argument for it. But How is a Trump-supported genocide somehow worse than a Harris-supported genocide? How is a Harris-supported genocide somehow better than a Biden-supported genocide? I don't. None of this makes sense, y'all. And I really don't care how people continue to use that excuse, lesser evilism or harm reduction. How much more harmful can you get than a genocide? What if you vote for one person who says, I am never not going to give Israel the support it needs to defend itself, and then the other person, the alternative, says Israel has a right to defend themselves. And I wish if I were in charge, I would tell Netanyahu to hurry up and finish. Not stop, but hurry up and finish, is what Trump said. Which one is the lesser evil? Which one of those people who have both said they will continue to support Israel's genocide, which makes this also the US's genocide, which one of those is less evil than the other one? Please tell me, and tell me why. You can't. You can't. I don't want to hear your dumbass reason why you think one of those is a lesser evil than the other one. I don't. That kind of argument, it is a waste of breath. It's a waste of synapses because it doesn't make any sense. It's a waste of my time. It's an insult to my intelligence. And honestly, it's beneath you. It's beneath anybody to continue to make this lesser evil argument in the face of both parties saying they will continue to supply weapons for this genocide. Both parties support genocide. And you gonna vote for one of them because they are less evil than the other party supporting the same genocide. What y'all expect me to do with that? Like, do y'all expect me to take that seriously? Do y'all expect me to have like a serious, the principled analyst answer for that? I do not. That doesn't make any fucking sense, and you know it doesn't. And quite honestly, it's a goddamn insult to 200,000 dead Palestinians. It really is. Anybody who uses these excuses to justify their vote for a genocidaire, for a black imperialist, for a silk press cop, the silk press slaughterer, the ski-wee slaughterer, anybody who uses any of these excuses about she is lesser evil, voting for her is harm reduction, and that's your excuse for voting for her, I want you to tell it to the Palestinians. I want you to, don't tell me. Don't convince me. Oh, no, don't convince me. I want you to convince the Palestinians. I want you to convince the Congolese who have been saying, Israel is over here fucking with us too. I want you to go and convince the Haitians who are staring down the barrel of another Western-backed invasion, this time using Africans. Go tell them, convince them about the lesser evilism of the Democrats that they have been fighting against all this time, that you haven't given a shit about. All of these people talking about lesser evil, the Democrats are lesser evil. Oh, Harris is lesser evil. This is harm reduction. All this time we have been having teach-ins, doing political educations, doing demonstrations, putting out statements, doing shows about all of these things and how they are all connected. We have been talking about imperialism. We've been talking about capitalism. We've been talking about AFRICOM. We've been talking about SouthCom. We've been to PacificCom. We've been talking about all of these things all of this time, and a whole lot of you folks, what you think you gonna do? You can't fix nothing. You can't stop nothing. Y'all ain't doing nothing but talking. And here you are gonna vote for the people who are doing all of this shit. So the next time we come out here doing our thing, doing our organizing thing, being our revolutionary radical, at least we gonna do something thing, keep your mouth shut. Shut the fuck up. Don't say another word to me about, well, what is this gonna do? What y'all think you gonna do? We doing a hell of a lot more than you doing, because you voting for her, voting for the Democrats or the Republicans. That's not harm reduction. That's not lesser evilism. That's a vote for the empire. That's a vote for genocide. That is a vote for oppression. That's a vote for standing over babies in a cobalt mine with guns. That's a vote for invading Haiti again. So don't ask me ever again. Don't challenge me ever again about what I do and what I say and why I do the work I do and why I believe what I no. Every single person who has ever criticized anything we have ever done, and any one of you have decided to vote for either one of these two political parties, y'all can't say shit else to us. Not a damn thing. I know you will, but I just want to put it on record. I'm not going to be polite anymore, because we are facing an existential crisis, not just for Palestinians, for all of us. And y'all gonna still go with harm reduction and voting for the people who got us here, who put us here. And then you gonna come and question me? I'm not perfect. I don't know everything. I'm not right all the time. Never said I was. But at the very least, I back up with what I say with boots on the ground, 10 toes down. I show the fuck up and I do the work. I don't need any accolades. I don't need anybody to know what I'm doing. I don't need a camera on me. Do not need a mic in my hand. I am going to do this work whether anybody sees me, watches me, big ups me, puts me in the paper, takes a picture. This is who I am. And we have seen who a lot of other people are. Can we please believe them this first time? Can we stop pretending that we can struggle with these people? I know that we have to struggle. We do have to struggle among our class over ideas. It is a battle of ideas. It absolutely is. But there comes a point. There comes a point when you have to stop struggling with people because you recognize that they don't want to do anything different. They don't want to believe anything different. They don't want anything to be different. What they want is to be comfortable while everything else goes up in flames around them. That's all that is. So these are people who don't care about other people's humanity. They don't. How do you care about somebody else's humanity when you vote for the person who is facilitating other people's genocide? I just, and somehow we're supposed to engage in good faith with people who are voting their comfort over voting to save humanity. And they talk about how and they talk about how, oh, I'm not going to vote for a third party because the third party isn't going to win. So you're just gonna willingly put yourself in that self-fulfilling prophecy. You're gonna demonize third parties because they don't win, but then you're gonna say that you're not gonna vote for them because they don't win. But they don't win because people don't vote for, even though their policies are exactly what you want. And not all of them, but look, there's PSL, there is the Green Party, there is Cornel West, and there are other parties. Some of those platforms bullshit. Some of those platforms are just, and some of those people don't even have a platform. I don't even know, but there are options. There are policies that some of these people have. And I, did you look at the policies that some of these other parties have? The very things that people claim they want, these are the very folks who are like, oh, the government never does anything for us. What happened with student loan debt? The same things we complained about. Yeah, what did happen with student loan forgiveness? What did happen with the promises to ban fracking? What did happen with the promises to do something about police brutality? Yeah, yeah. What did happen to all of these campaign promises? But instead of voting for policies that you want, that you were lied about, that you were lied to, that you thought you were going to get from the Democrats that you didn't get, instead of looking at these third parties and looking at their platforms and saying, "Oh crap, they got the policies that those people lied and said they had, but these people really have the power." Instead of voting for the policies, even if you don't like the people, even if you have a beef with the people. I'm gonna get to that in a minute. I'm gonna get to it. Don't worry. I'm not gonna shy away from it. I'm gonna get to it. Instead of voting for the policies you want, that you complained about that you didn't get, that the Democrats lied to you about giving to you, now you got the policies right here. But because it's a third party that has the policies, you can't vote for them because they don't win. I'm too old to try to make sense out of stuff that makes no sense. If I can't make sense out of something that did not come out of my head, I'm not going to hurt myself trying to. So about these personalities, political parties, I will never shut down the valid criticism of any politician. You do some fucked up shit. Yeah, if you did it, you did it. If you did it, if you did it, you did it. If you said it, you said it. If it was wrong, shouldn't have said it. I will be the first. Now, look, for those of you who don't know, I am a senior advisor on the Jill Stein Butch Ware campaign. And so there's a lot I'm not going to say because I can't, because I, signed the little NDA and shit. But but listen, being a senior advisor on a political campaign is what can I compare it to? Hmm, what can I compare it to? It's kind of like being the new junior associate in a big firm, and you're in the regular meetings and everybody is given their ideas about strategies about how to handle an issue, and because you're like a junior new associate, sometimes people don't listen to you. Sometimes. And then when that happens, sometimes people make mistakes that, you know, you don't you don't want to be petty and like remind them, tried to tell you. But, so yeah, that's the best example I could come up with real quick without giving a whole lot away. um but political campaigns, I guess, they're interesting. They're their own microcosm. It's unlike anything you've probably ever done, but it's also very similar to just regular old event planning. It's just the most intense event planning every damn day for for that kind of thing. Um it's an environment unto itself, but then again it's not, because you have to be involved with a whole bunch of people. It's very weird. It's very, very weird, and it's a very interesting experience for me. And it's an experience that I'm very glad that I'm having. that I've had the opportunity to have. Um, but just because I have this experience and just because I am doing this, that does not mean that valid criticism of the candidates is out of place, or that I don't want to hear it. I know that the opposite is actually true. If people have a valid criticism, like if people know something that's going on that I don't know, I need to know. I need to know because maybe the campaign doesn't know. You know what I mean? Maybe we all don't know. And okay, that's all I'm gonna say about it. Maybe we all don't know, and I know. So if you have information about the campaign and the people and you know that there's something that look, there are Russian agents and please tell me, because I need to know. I do not need to be going on trial next. Do you understand? That is probably going to happen anyway because that's where the government is going. I'm just saying, I just need a little time to prepare my stuff. Make sure somebody can adopt my dog and that kind of thing. But I'm not opposed to valid criticism. It's got to be valid though. You can't just tell me and listen, I don't have any kind of personal connection with these people. I don't care that I don't I'm not look, people say stuff to me about the candidates all of the time. All of the time. I don't like her because blah blah blah. All right, I feel you. I don't have any personal stake. It's not, people don't like them for whatever reason. I personally do not care. It is not that serious with me. It's really not. I really did go into this exactly like I told y'all I went into this. I saw this as an opportunity for me to organize our people in a way that I don't think I would have the opportunity to, because I get to go all across the country and get in front of groups of our people and see the work that they're doing, see our community, see what yeah, I'm yeah, that's because the policies are good. And I do want our people to know that look, you do have options. You have options. You do not have to keep voting for these people. But I mean, I don't get like offended when people are like, I don't like Jill Stein. I don't like Butch Ware. Okay. But the criticism has to be valid. It has to be true. Okay? It has to be true. It can't be some Adrian Zen's Chinese Uyghurs are being held in a concentration camp type of bullshit. It has to be true. I'm really not going to entertain it if it's just a bunch of and I hate to use the word conspiracy because just because people keep stuff secret from you, it doesn't mean it's not true. But it can't be some weird made up kind of hit. That's what it is. It's just a hit. Oh, the GOP is using the Green Party to be a spoiler. Okay, who is it? Who is it? Who is it? Because I am on the inside of the campaign and I know everybody working on the campaign. So just give me a name. Give me a name. And I know you can't. I just and yes, I saw that comment. Uh-huh. Seen it. Ajamu sent it to me. I'm not on Twitter that much because I hate Twitter very, very much. But I seen it. Um, and what you want me to say about it? Because I have made clear my position on that bullshit. We know that is bullshit. We know that is an imperialist lie. I can't speak for what other people understand. So this is just a really weird, like, man, what a weird position I find myself in. Like, on the one hand, there are people who are just still going with the lesser evil bullshit and actually using that as a staunch defense for voting for genocide, right? And oh, okay. And I'm just like, look, if you're gonna vote for either political major party, just do it. Just go ahead and do it and shut up. Shut up already. All right. Fine. Fine. You don't care about genocide. You don't care about the Palestinians. You don't care about the Congolese or the Haitians or the working class and poor black folks in Atlanta or Baltimore, or Southeast DC or Cleveland. You don't get it. We get it. We get it. You don't care. Go ahead, vote. Shut up. Go ahead. Go on. Okay. No need to vote shame other people. No need to say anything that would you go ahead and vote for your comfort because we know that's what you're doing. Okay, good. But then here I am, a whole communist on a not communist campaign. And the contradictions therein, right? So it's a very interesting position that I find myself in. And I don't see it as a negative, not at all. I don't see it as I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it is very instructive for me to see things from the perspective that I do see things. Um, and I think it will inform a different, well, no, not a different perspective. It confirms, it validates, it solidifies um, my perspective about things before I got involved in the campaign. So yeah, um, I'm so glad you said that, Craig. Because okay, I'm gonna tell you a little secret. It's a little secret. If I were going to do any type of political campaign work, I would have loved. I would have loved to have. Yeah, I would have. I would have. If I had gotten that call, hell yeah, I would have. But that's not who called me. So, you know. mm. So yeah, oops, sorry about that, Dre. So yes, I'm not interested in I don't care who people, but I don't care. I am so far um disgusted with humanity at this point. I'm not interested in having any more conversations with people about their voting choices because now in 2024, we are seeing what people would have done during the Nazi Holocaust. We are seeing what people would have done during the European human trafficking crime against Africans. We are seeing what people would have done during Leopold's rape of the Congo. We are seeing what people would have done during the Rwanda genocide. And I recognize that I am surrounded by people who have so little concern for humanity and are so focused on their own comfort, their own material comfort, that they would vote for people who are facilitating a genocide and have promised they will continue to facilitate a genocide. And somehow that's supposed to be okay with me? With the rest of us who would never vote for such a thing, who want this thing to stop, who are doing everything we can to stop this thing, we're supposed to just be cool with living with these people all around us. I don't know about y'all, but these people terrify me. I like, see, I know what the government is, right? I know what the state is going to do because they do the same thing all the time. I know the state is going to come after them, come after us. What scares me is knowing that my neighbors, they won't do a damn thing when they do. Your neighbors, when they come after you, when they come to your house, the FBI raids your house like they did Omali Yeshatelas and Penny Hess and Jesse Neville's. Yeah, when they come to your house and do, your neighbors ain't gonna do shit to save you. Most of the people that we know will watch us get dragged off. Mhm. That is what scares me. Not the possibility that the state could come after us. Yeah, they're going to. What scares me is the people around me who I know, who I see now have so little regard for humanity that they're fine with those people over there being slaughtered as long as they remain comfortable. And I understand that applies to me, that applies to you, that applies to Haitians, that applies to Congolese, that applies to Malians, that applies to Burkinabes. Do you see what I'm saying? That applies to everybody in the global south. So I am more afraid of the liberals, right? I am more afraid of the liberals than I am of the state. Because who makes it easier for the state to get away with the anti-radical repression, the silencing of dissent? Who lets the state get away with it? Who emboldens the state to do it? Who helps write the legislation that gives the state the power to come after us the way they do? Liberals. And you all are always thinking, oh, it's the GOP, the GOP. Who passed the anti-protest laws in the states after the uprising in 2020? Who were most of the governors that passed most of those anti-protest laws? Most of those governors were Democratic governors. And those laws have not been rescinded. And when the Democrats lost, the Republicans just came in and made the law stronger. That's all. But whenever we tell you that the Democrats are always, always, always in collusion with the Republicans because the Democrats and the Republicans are different wings of the same evil bird, what did W.E.B. Du Bois say? One party with two names. Whenever we tell you that, you never want to believe it. People never want to be, oh, but the Democrats are for women's rights. They're for protecting women. Oh yeah? Then how come they never codified Roe v. Wade? How come they literally told you to your face codifying Roe v. Wade was not a priority for them? Here you are sitting there talking about the Democrats love women so much and want to protect women's bodily autonomy. And the Democrats are sitting there telling you, no, we don't. No, we don't. We're not going to do anything. And then they don't do anything. Roe v. Wade is overturned, and then the Democrats campaign on women's reproductive rights. The reproductive rights they told you years before they didn't give a shit about. That you somehow convinced yourself that they did. And we're the ones who are the problem because we're not voting for either one of those parties. Okay. So yes, y'all. What a weird. I I think in a real democracy, excuse me. I think in a real democracy, people should vote for whoever the hell they want. I think in a real democracy, people should have um as many choices for who to vote for as they can possibly have. People always bring up the fact that in socialist or communist countries, there's only one political party, and that, according to people, is why those countries are not democracies. Well, here's the thing about countries like that. Let's say China, right? China heads the Communist Party, runs the country. And people are always like, well, in China, you can only vote for the Communist Party. All right. In China, people can vote for representatives from their community to represent them in the government. Yes, as members of the Chinese Communist Party, but they do get to vote for people that they choose. The Chinese Communist Party does not choose these people. People from the communities run, and as representatives of their communities in the party, in the Chinese government. And do you know what they can do by doing that? The Chinese people can change the policy of the Chinese government. Here's a great example of when they did that. During the pandemic, China led the way, led the world with their response to COVID. And yes, the lockdown in China was severe, it was complete, but it was necessary because China didn't have 1 million plus deaths from COVID. They barely had 10,000 in that first 2 years. As a matter of fact, they did not have 10,000 deaths in that first 2 years. But after a while, I guess some of the people did start to get a little, stir crazy, antsy, whatnot. And there were small protests in a limited number, like literally in 4 or 5 cities in China, very small protests. The Chinese government during the pandemic did everything to take care of its people. Rent moratoriums. Nobody got evicted. Nobody lost their pay. Nobody lost their jobs. Food, medicine, and PPE was delivered to people's homes. China led the way with contact tracing. So China did a lot of things, all of the things actually, for its people that the US government refused to do. Refused to do. All this government did was do a partial lockdown, made low-wage workers continue to go to work, claiming that they were essential personnel, gave them a $2 an hour raise, then took it back when the pandemic was declared over. And the US government didn't provide anything for the people who were locked down. Nothing, not a doggone thing. So a few people in China were like, you know what? The lockdown, this is enough. This is enough. Can't take anymore. Can't take anymore. They have an election. And apparently the people in China voted, can we please revise the lockdown protocol? They didn't say they wanted the lockdown to go away completely. They said they wanted a revision, a relaxing, a loosening of some of the restrictions. And you know what the Chinese government did? They did exactly what the people asked. They loosened some of the COVID restrictions. So the people in China, even though there is only the Chinese Communist Party, from what I know, yes, they only have the Chinese Communist Party to vote for. But they can vote for a number of representatives to send to the government to represent their interests. And when they vote, they can absolutely change the policies that affect their everyday lives. In this country, we can't even get affordable housing. Kamala Harris's answer for affordable housing is to give more government subsidies to private developers to build more housing that we don't need. Another giveaway to the rich. when what needs to be done is the available housing that is empty, that is owned by private developers, needs to be seized by the government and given to the people. Because we have enough empty housing stock in this country to house every single homeless person and borrow some more people from other countries and put them in some homes too. We do not need any more housing to be built. The housing that exists, that is empty, needs to be seized by the government and given to the people. You know that housing is a human right in places like China, right? Everybody has a, yeah, the government makes sure that everybody has a, do we get that here? What Democrat can we vote for to give us that here? Guaranteed housing for all people. What Republican can we vote for to get that here? What Democrat or Republican can we vote for here to get equally and equitably funded public school education, K through 12, and free college? Well, who? Which Democrat or Republican can we vote for to get that? Environmental protections. What Democrat or Republican can we vote for to live in a country where we don't have cancer alleys? Hmm? I could go on, but you know what I mean. So I think I am weary of engaging in bad faith struggle with people who really are not interested in actually um, listening or learning or seeing anything from a different perspective. And I just kind of feel like we don't have time. I feel like time is so short right now. And maybe that's just the excuse I'm going to use to just not do it anymore. But man, it's just I really am having a hard time believing that people believe the things they are saying, considering what we're all seeing. But then again, it also, the way people are responding also validates to me exactly how and why settler colonialism works, because so many people go along with it. Because you do realize that what we're seeing in Gaza now, what we're seeing in Lebanon, really what we're seeing in Lebanon now, we are seeing how the United States came about. That that's what we're seeing. Israel, if you did not understand what settler colonialism is, how it works, what it does, you're looking at it. You are literally watching the origin story of the United States playing out in Gaza and Lebanon right now. That's what the Europeans who came to this country did to the indigenous people. They had primitive weapons. Yeah, they didn't have the jets and the mother of all bombs and 2,000-pound bombs back then, but they had enough weaponry that they were able to damn near wipe out the indigenous people to steal their land. That's settler colonialism. An outside entity coming to a place where they are not, they don't live here, they're not from here, seeing the land here, deciding they want to take it for themselves, and determining that the people who are already here on this land are in their way. So they have to get rid of them. And they call it progress. That's what we're watching. And people are basically saying, watching settler colonialism play out in real life, that's not a red line for them. They're cool with that being done, to which to me says that Now that they've seen settler colonialism happen in real life, they've seen what it is. Now I feel like people who are voting for the people who are doing this are saying, yeah, I know this is what they did to the indigenous people, but you know, there's got to be a winner, there's got to be a loser. I'm going to vote for the winners. You see what I mean? And maybe that's just the way my twisted brain works, but that's exactly how I see these people. That is exactly how. Can we please stop with the diseases? Stop with the diseases thing. Would they have caught the diseases if the white people hadn't shown up? I heard someone one day say, a couple of days ago, say that that the venereal diseases that the European settlers got from the indigenous, yeah, that the venereal diseases that the settlers got came from the indigenous people. If that was true, how come the indigenous people were not dying from venereal diseases before the Europeans showed up? What is wrong with people? Well, these people over here minding their own business, doing their thing, being stewards of the land, hanging out, just doing their thing. Yeah, they had conflicts with other groups of people, happens all the time, whatever, no big deal. I'm sure they did have diseases. I'm sure people did catch colds and catch the flu and shit like that. But entire tribes of people were not wiped out by somebody getting the cold or flu or a disease, not until the fucking Europeans showed up. Then all of a sudden, these diseases started wiping entire communities out. Come on, come on. Look, can we not do that? Can we lay the blame where it rests and on what it rests? Settler colonial violence. Like diseases hopped on a ship by themselves and took themselves to another country. Anyway, oh boy. And this is why for the past since the beginning of September, this is why since the beginning of September, when I am not doing strictly BAP work, when I am not doing this show, I am watching football. I am in the garden and I can't even watch football. But I knew this because I know what football is. But now the Zionist organization has this ad that they're running on during all the football games, college and professional. Hate has won, hate is winning, and they're trying to convince people that, oh, they're talking about just general intolerance against everyone. No, they're talking about the pro-Palestine protests, and they are dressing that shit up as just a general condemnation of all hate. But the organization that is sponsoring the ad is the coalition to fight anti-Semitism. So you know damn well they are talking about the pro-Palestine anti-genocide protests. And these people are framing people who are protesting against genocide as hateful. But guess what? So is Kamala Harris. So is Joe Biden. So is Donald Trump. So is J.D. Vance. So are all the 200 Republicans who were backing Kamala Harris. So are all the rest of the Republicans backing Donald Trump. Boy, this is a for me, because I have never lived through anything like this. This is an unprecedented time. But for people who are older than me, this is not unprecedented. This is not new. This is a rehash of atrocities past. And I actually do remember when Rwanda was happening, because that was during Clinton. A whole lot of people were like, this was the one time when the US government was like, nope, not getting involved, not getting involved, not getting involved. And the one time people were like, could you please save people's lives? And Bill Clinton was like, nope, fuck them people. And then after he's not president, then it's like, oh, my one regret was that I didn't respond to Rwanda. But then the US government propped up, what's his name? Paul Kagame, the butcher of Rwanda, as the Ooh, that's a whole nother show. Lord have mercy. Well, thank you. I appreciate that so much because I feel like my soul needs to be cleansed. All these terrible people that I am around, all of a sudden, I feel like my soul needs to be cleansed. I really feel like I'm in an alternate universe. Like what kind of human beings are y'all? I don't understand what kind of human beings people are who who are cool with genocide. I am just, ooh, I don't know that there's enough room in hell. I don't think there's enough room in hell for everybody. The genocidaires and the supporters of the genocidaires. I don't think the floor plan in hell planned for that kind of oh. But regardless of what everybody else does, regardless of what everybody else says, regardless of what how people are choosing their own personal comfort over humanity, I have to keep doing what I do because I answer to powers bigger than myself, and powers that are more, honestly, they're more frightening than y'all. I am more afraid of the ancestors than I am of all of y'all. I cannot be in here by myself, call myself living my life and protecting my personal comfort when I know doggone well the ancestors expect a hell of a lot more from me. Because there is no way I've gone through the hell I've been through in my life, and I'm not supposed to be here fighting like hell so that nobody goes through a lot of this shit. Because a lot of what I have gone through is a direct result of imperialism and capitalism and settler colonialism and oppression and class antagonism and all of that shit. Yeah. How could I have gone through all of this, know all of it, understand the connections, understand that our people suffer from the same kinds of things, and then sit back and go, well, I survived. I don't know how the rest of y'all getting through it, but I'm all right. I'm gonna put my feet up and enjoy my peace. Rest is revolutionary. Rest is not fucking revolutionary. Everybody needs to rest because you can't work yourself to death. But rest is there it is. That's what rest is for this. Rest is not resistance. Rest is a biological imperative. If you do not rest, your brain breaks down, you go crazy, and then you die. That really does happen. If you do not sleep for at least a week, yeah, that's what happened. You start to hallucinate. You have to rest. Rest is a biological imperative for all of us. It's not resistance. I mean, they expect us to go to sleep. like, like sleep is not optional. They're not like sitting there going, "Oh my God, these organizers are so powerful. They don't even sleep. We don't even want to do." Please, come on. Joy is not resistance either. You know what resistance is? Fucking resistance. Resistance is resistance. Rest and joy and peace and uh uh self-care, whatever you want to call it, that is what we do so that we can live to fight another day, so that we can get up the next day and keep going, so that we can recharge ourselves. That's not resistance though, because a whole lot of us are running on empty, and we shouldn't be, because we should take the time out to take care of ourselves, because the revolution goes nowhere if we all drop dead. If we all drop dead before the state gets to us. You know what I mean? But no, rest and joy, and that's not resistance. That is that's sustaining ourselves. That's taking care of ourselves. Yeah, we have to do that in order for us to just keep going. Hell, if we weren't in resistance work, we would still have to do that. So, no, none of those things are resistance. Resistance is resistance. Being an anti imperialist is resistance. Being an anti capitalist is resistance. Being a Pan Africanist is resistance. Being anti settler colonialism is resistance. Being an anti Zionist is resistance. Being in solidarity with resistance movements that espouse those values, that's resistance. Actually being organized and being engaged in resistance activities is resistance. Me having beer, pizza, and some Uncle Nearest after the show is over, that is me. That is me feeding my little desires. That's not resistance. That's me and Kimathi enjoying our Friday night treat, which is what I'm fitting to do. So, excuse me. Woo, y'all. I don't know what's gonna happen next week. I don't. It's gotten to the point now where I do not watch the news. I cannot watch corporate media. Because it's too much for me to deal with, and also deal with all of the personality stuff in real life. That's too much to me. Too much for me. So I do my little news troll at the beginning of the day each day, and every day I gotta do my devotions. I have my little devotion time, make my coffee, sit outside, look at my plants, take my shoes off, rub my feet in the ground for a couple of minutes, ground myself, and just be like, okay, let me get to it. Let me jump in and see what these motherfuckers have done last night now. Because every day it's a new atrocity, it's a new outrage, it's a new, oh my God, what now? And that's pretty consistent. All while I'm doing organizing work, all while I'm doing this show, all while I'm still advising on this campaign, sort of kind of. It's a lot. So yes, I am going to go enjoy my Friday night treat with my dog. He's going to have his pizza bones. I'm going to have my pizza. Please enjoy whatever it is that you enjoy on your Friday night. Goodness, we've got a lot of work to do. The next few months are going to tell us who we are going to be fighting. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much the only thing the election is going to provide us. Who we're going to be fighting and what tactics we're going to use to fight them. Because the fact that we're going to have to fight this administration, that is a given. It does not matter who is in office. We are going to have to fight for our lives, our freedom, our so-called rights, regardless of who is in office. So you might as well just get used to the fact that you're going to have to fight, and it doesn't matter which one of them we are going to have to fight. We're going to have to fight. The question for you that I have is, where you going to be when the rest of us get on the line? Where you going to be? Which side of the barricade you going to be on when we get on the line? You going to be on our side? Or are we going to have to deal with you first? Thank you all so much for joining. I have talked too much. Sinuses are all haywire now. I'll see you all next Wednesday. I'll probably have some more Patreon content, maybe a little gardening stuff. I've been watching my winter veg, see if they're going to sprout this year. So I'll have a few more Patreon drops for you with a few other things. See you Wednesday on Black Liberation Media. See you next Friday on Darker Than Blue, and see you in between somewhere, somewhere else, anywhere else, everywhere else. Until next time, y'all, be good to each other, be good to yourselves. A luta continua. The struggle continues, but I promise, if we keep struggling, and we are going to have to, regardless of who wins this election, I promise you, victory is certain. Victoria acerta. All right, y'all. Peace.